Okay, the idea behind this is companies and how companies prefer what do you call it? Optics over reality. I guess actually that would have been a better title, is optics over reality. But it has to do with pizza parties. And the reason why companies throw pizza parties instead of actually helping their employees fix their fucking problems. Because if employees didn't have problems, we wouldn't need pizza parties. And it's like, so I'm going to tell you guys a story. And this is just a conspiracy. Guys, this is just a conspiracy, okay? Okay? But the last time we did donations at Walmart, for some reason, well, I know the reason. Every single cashier got like an award for getting donations except me. Talks, thanks, man. You always make me smile. We always need pizza parties. Well, yeah, but if it's like, if you're like, man, I'm like overscheduled and there's no one ever here. I'm working 3 jobs at once. You want me on SCO, you want me on cash, and you want me on customer service all at the same time. Well, seeing I can't leave either of the places. Like, go fuck yourselves. But now you're gonna be like, oh, it's okay, we're throwing a pizza party. No, bro, it's not okay. Hire more people or get people that actually fucking show up to work, bro. And don't bitch at me because you don't have enough fucking employees. There's a dollar for dollar thing. A pizza party is very cheap, but a 50-cent pay raise is actually really expensive. Well, it's not even that, Levi. It's like fixing staffing issues and making sure that the store has enough people in it. Not taking 8.5 months to fire someone who never showed up for a single shift, and then say the reason that we can't have any new employees is because we have too many. It's because we have like 8 or 9 employees that like never show up, but they're still on the fucking roster. So there's like 8 of us in the front end. Yeah, but Levi, it doesn't. You can have a store, or you can not have a store. Like, if you can't afford to staff the store, you can't afford to have a store. Like, when did that not become the concept? When it was all of a sudden like, oh no, I need this in order to keep... No, it's like, if you can't afford to keep the staff on, you can't afford the store. Period. I think it's such a piss off for me. It's because, like, I do my job. I show up. I consider myself a good employee. Now, I'm not asking for any benefits or anything. I'm just asking that, you know, maybe take my word as consideration for something because I'm fucking always there and I know what's going on. Point is that pizza parties are incredibly cheap. The choice they're making isn't between having the party and solving their issues. Levi, the reason they're throwing the pizza party is to thwart people from the issues. Because it's cheaper than solving the issues. That's what I'm saying. Otherwise, they wouldn't throw pizza parties. Also, it's... Well, That's what I'm saying, Levi. Like, that's the problem. It's like the same thing with the discussion yesterday. It's like, I'm talking about solving the problem, and then you say something that's like, oh, but this is why it's the way that it is. And it's like, yeah, but I'm trying to solve the problem. I'm not saying the way that it is. I'm trying to solve the problem. So the idea of it is go back to the basis, go back to the roots. What are we trying to do? We're trying to solve the problem. And if you're not trying to solve the problem, then you need to be held accountable for not solving the problem. You can't just, as the company, ignore the problem. And if you say, yes, you can, then I'm saying, okay, in reality, yes, but that's not what we're discussing. Do you understand? Like, the discussion is not why do companies do what they do, it's how could companies actually solve the issue. Not whether they will, it's just what is the solution. Have happy days, y'all. Gotta run. Alright, Neva, have a good one. Thanks for coming by and hanging out. Always a good time. But do you understand where I'm coming from, Levi? Levi, I think the underlying incentive structure is being held accountable and it actually being illegal for these actions to take place. So the underlying incentive structure just needs laws to be basically rewritten in order for unions basically not to be needed for the people to be, for workers to be able to defend themselves. The government should be defending the workers from the companies. But that's like the underlying incentive structure is it's we can save money by not solving these problems. But if it would legally cost them more money to not solve the problems, they would solve the problems. Do you agree? In a hypothetical. If laws were changed and fines were made that made it, like, let's say 10 times more expensive to not solve these problems, do you think companies would instantly solve all of these problems? In a hypothetical, yes, you are correct. You run into issues with economic calculation. Okay, well, let's say this, Levi. What percentage of overall revenue of an entire company of, let's say, Walmart, in order to continue to expand at a minimum, how much revenue in total do you think they need, percentage-wise? Because I think that's where we need to start. And Sean, welcome to the stream, good sir. I know you're late today, but I'm glad you're here. Guess what day it is, Sean? It's my birthday! What did I miss? Me and Levi are discussing, well, we're basically discussing, why companies have incentives to not fix problems because fixing problems costs companies money. So, in my opinion, if a company imports something that could be made locally, then they should be taxed so high that they lose money compared to hiring local people to make the product. See, Sean, I agree with that. Is this being done on a company-by-company basis? This sounds like it'll just mean the government picks winners and losers. No, Levi, this would be a overall. What percent... Because, okay, I'll just give you my percentage. If your overall... Okay... let's say your net take home after taxes is 20%. So after everything is said and done, this year you have produced 20% more money than you have spent. Do you think that's reasonable? Because I think that's high enough number that it will not stagnate it should not stagnate the company in any way from expansion. Different companies and different business models have different amounts of overhead in proportion to their return. But we're just talking, we're just saying like a maximum, Levi. A maximum. So if you hit 20%, as soon as you hit 20%, you cannot earn any more money past that point. So all companies would try to be within that 19th to 20th percentile to make sure that they don't overstep and accidentally like lose money. Right? So this would cause them to be a lot more careful with like mass production of things and stuff like that. Yes, Levi, we're punishing companies for being successful. Because at a certain point, how successful, like really, how successful does Walmart have to be? Does it have to be the only store that exists in the entire world before enough is enough? At what point do you allow competition to enter the room? At what point is it just a monopoly? So yes, we're punishing people for success because we're saying your success is so great, please let someone else jump in. And I think it's completely reasonable for any company that's getting 20% take-home revenue to be stagnated in a way that allows other companies to enter the scene. And the only argument against it is in favor of companies being monopolies. Because if you can make your company so successful that it's the only company on the planet, what happens when that company falls apart? It's a very dangerous game to play. So I think the safest thing is have the cap at 20%. It's not even a punishment. It's a mandate to increase employee numbers and expand the portfolio. Yeah, like if you're continuously expanding and you're still making like 400% profit, it's like, where's that 400% profit making? Oh, you're paying people under the table. You're not paying people for their work. You're paying people you're like making people work off of the clock and shit. It's like you have a very mythicized view of economics. Mytholus. I don't understand, Levi. So what you're advocating for is monopoly. If your company is good enough, then it wipes every other company off the board. That company should reign supreme over all companies. That's what you're saying, right, Levi? Like, that's all I'm asking. Because from my opinion, your view can only end one way, and that's with a company that is so good it becomes, fuck is it called in Idiocracy? Brando. It becomes Brando. Natural monopolies are unexploitable, so if they came about, then that'd be fine. The moment they try to exploit it, the monopoly falls apart. Well, that's not true, Levi, because they're the one that holds all of the goods. So if they have a monopoly, they can charge whatever the hell they want for anything unless the government says otherwise. And they could hire as minimal employees as they wanted and have as large of a portfolio as they wanted. Like, income portfolio. Like, there's no argument against it. A good company wouldn't even notice such a law as they do it automatically. Well, a corrupt company isn't expanding their portfolio to keep their expenses, to keep their personal profits modest. Have all the goods. I don't think you understand what goods are. Levi, we're talking about a company that owns everything. This company owns shipping. This company owns production. This company owns mining of raw materials. This company literally owns absolutely everything in the world. There is only one company in the world, and it owns absolutely everything. That is the ultimate outcome of your perspective, in my mind. Because this company is so good. They are so amazing. They changed absolutely everything about everything. They blew everyone out of the water, and they just took a competition and just slammed it into the ground and instantly just bought absolutely everything, so they own everything. If they own everything, then who have they been selling to? They've been selling to the consumers. Their employees. They're selling back to their employees. Who would win in a fight? The average cashier at a Blockbuster in 2004, the average cashier at Hot Topic in 2011? Blockbuster, they were less woke. And those people presumably bought stuff. If they had enough money. But at that point, you're talking like entire economic breakdown from the monopoly, because people can't afford things. They can't afford housing because of the monopoly. Like, unless you enforce some kind of restrictions, like, that is the ultimate outcome of that kind of, like, unrestricted growth. That's why I'm saying at some point in time, the big boy has to step aside and say, okay, here's a little square for the little guy. Do you understand that? Because I think Sean gets it pretty accurately on that, with the idea of it's more about the overall structure of how the company evolves. If you're not looking to basically destroy everything in your path in a malicious way, you don't need to be making hundreds of billions of dollars as the CEO of the company. So if they've been selling people so much stuff that this results in a scenario where nobody else has any stuff. No, it's now nobody can buy anything. I made 3 games. Nice Zoink Kozri. So now they've basically locked themselves into a corner now because they own everything. So all of their employees, but they treat all of their employees like shit, so none of their employees can buy anything, so now the entire company is falling apart. Like that's the ultimate, that's the only way it can really end, right? Is stagnation at the end, because eventually it's going to get to a point where it can't even produce its own thing. They own everything, but they've been selling people stuff this whole time. Slowly, they've been lowering it. So it's like, as they increase prices, less and less people can buy stuff. And now it's hit a critical point where Now they're losing money and going broke because no one can buy anything because their prices are so high, but they refuse to lower their prices because they're a monopoly and they don't have to. So they say, fuck the people. That's the ultimate outcome. Monopoly is illegal on paper, yet they do secondary companies to get close to being a monopoly anyways. Yeah, subsidiary companies. That's why BlackRock and Vanguard basically own the entire world.
The first game is called Jiggle the Pickle, second is called Spinning Wheel, 3 is called Rolling Rubik's Cube.
Nice, Zoink. Did you put it in the Discord? Because otherwise, I will totally forget about it. But I see where you're coming from, Levi, but I think that's like in order to stop that ultimate end goal, you need to put a barrier across the top. That's all my advocate is. As they increase prices, okay, just buy from other people. Either they're selling stuff for cheap enough to it enriches others, or they're selling things expensive enough people don't want to buy it. What do you mean buy from other people? Levi, there are no other people to buy from. College-trained managers don't understand that keeping prices low increases profit. I'd like a law that prevents hiring managers who didn't work on the floor. True, Sean. But I don't understand the just buy from other people, because you can't buy from other people. The CEO of the company, Levi, is sitting there going like, ha 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 ha, look at those retards, look at that, they can't keep up with me, I'm up in the price again. It's like, sir, we're collapsing. It's like, I don't give a fuck, look at all the money I got, I can do whatever the hell I want, bro, fuck you. Prior to ramping up prices, they were selling stuff to others. Those people are then necessarily have stuff. So again, what I'm saying is at some point in time, there will be a breaking point where the entirety of that company will collapse, and all of society and the economy will collapse. So, again, you're not advocating for stopping that.
But I made those 3 games in real life.
Which is like, I'm trying to advocate for stopping that. Does that make sense? Because one of the biggest things is, if a company manages to get a monopoly, then they can raise the prices as high as they want because nobody else can create a company because the monopoly owns everything and thus won't sell anything that would allow for a competitor to rise up. You don't have a coherent model for how monopolies come about, so it doesn't really make sense. So I don't think you can play it because you can't play it and you can only play it. What is this conversation about? I'm trying to figure out what each side is arguing about. Okay, Beezus, I'm trying to say that companies should only be allowed to take 20%, okay, overall, when all the taxes, everything is done at the end of the year, a company can only take home 20% of their overall revenue as profit, right? So let's say your revenue that year was $1 billion. You can only gain $1 billion plus 20%. Anything above 20% is instantly taxed, no matter what. And all of that money is put into small businesses. So my advocate is for large, successful companies to take a small step aside and allow for the prosper of small businesses to prevent monopolies from happening. And I believe laws need to be rewritten in order for this to happen, because either two things will happen. Companies will stop producing things at that point, or they will increase employees to that 20%. So all of that extra money that they get goes to the employees instead of going to taxes. I'm actually surprised you're not right wing. I'm Beezus, I'm very center. I have very extreme left, I have very extreme right. Sadly, it won't happen because big business already owns the government behind the scenes. Oh yeah, Sean, we're not talking about realities. We're talking about hypotheticals. The point of this conversation is, what would need to happen? Not will it happen? What actually needs to happen? What steps need to be taken for this to be a reality? Not that it ever will be, but at least we have a plan. That's like the overall idea behind these commentaries, is creating a plan in these situations and saying, hey, this is probably what we should do in these situations. And then I want people's, like, arguments towards why not. So, Beezus, Levi's argument is that we shouldn't punish companies for being successful. And I said, then you wind up with companies like in Idiocracy, Brando, that literally own absolutely everything and no one knows how to do anything because Brando just owns everything. Right? And it's like the inevitability of that is the collapse of society and economics. So in order to prevent that from happening, I'm suggesting adding this very reasonable bar that prevents companies from earning over a ridiculous amount of money that they don't need to earn. Does that make sense? But it's all in a hypothetical, like, actionable plan, in the essence that these are the things you should do, but the way that the world is now would not allow these to happen, right? First thing that we need to happen, which I don't advocate, is a major bloodbath, removing those who don't think along a line where wealth is shared. The death toll would be insane. Realistically, this would result in large businesses paying shell companies to do risk management for them, and successful small businesses being prevented from competing. So what I'm saying, Levi, is for all of these, like, loopholes that people could use, we make laws for. There will be 0 large corporations in that world. No next day delivery on Amazon and other things. Ease of life would be non-existent unless provided by the government. So, Beezus... Okay, I guess the first thing we'll ask is... So my question to you, Beezus, is then what do you think Amazon's overall take-home is? Because I'd assume Amazon's overall take-home is probably somewhere between, like, 15 to 24%. Are we going to make laws against risk management? It's a legitimate service. Hey ladies, hey cute muffin. No, but what I'm saying, Sean, is like, maybe my number's off, but let's ask Grok. What is the total percentage take-home profit of a company like Amazon after taxes in percent compared to revenue?
Cute Muffin rated my stream.
Cute Muffin! So the Postal Service would reclaim the sole shipping service title. See, that's what I'm saying, is I don't think that would happen, Sean. I don't think that, like... I think that... I think the number I'm thinking of is very, very reasonable. And I want to prove my point that my number is extremely, extremely reasonable. Alright, Muffin, sounds good. So like I said, I think it's somewhere between 15 and 24%. And can we agree that Amazon is, let's say, top 5 biggest companies in the world? If not top 3 companies in the world. And they're continuously growing. Right? Boom. There you go. There you go. So, guys, this wouldn't even apply to... Amazon would have to make twice as much money before this would... I'm not a numbers guy. I disagree with this stuff in a more absolute sense rather than thinking you've just picked a bad number. Okay, True. Zoink, thanks for the raid, guys. Thank you so much for the raids. Today's the day of raids. It's birthday day. It's birthday day. But do you see what I mean, Levi? Is even Amazon doesn't hit that number. I don't even know if there's a company in the world that hits that number. So I'm just saying at some point. What would the percentage for... Okay, let's check what what is the percentage for Microsoft then? Okay, I'll wait until this is done and then I'll say the number. Happy birthday, bitch. Thanks, cute muffin. It's my birthday. It's my birthday. Big boy, I've been in and out of this conversation this whole time. Okay. After take home, at the end of the day, after all of... Oh, thank you for following me, Soggy Lover Q. We're getting all the announcements today. I do not use Amazon, I use eBay. Oh, happy birthday. Thank you, thank you. It's my birthday. It's my birthday. It's a big day, guys. It's my birthday. Thank you, Soggy. Welcome, welcome. How is it going? We are discussing revenue earnings and percentage caps for companies in order to prevent if this is about monopoly prevention, then why does profit relative to assets matter? Small companies are just as, if not more capable of overperforming in that way. So I only have 2 games now, planning to stream here. How does one do that? How does one do that? Streaming on Kick. Well, I use a program called OBS. So there's a lot of different programs people use. I use OBS. So if you want to stream, I would recommend... Welcome to A Talk Stories, or tales of fantasy and moral chaos. I think this is a good one. Yeah, I've watched this. I've watched these before. So these are literally the videos I watched to set up my stream. Like way the fuck back in the day. So check out this one and check out this one and see if those help you. Because apparently they did for me, because I've watched both of them. But yeah. Zoink, you can stop raiding, motherfucker. Yeah. So the number, Beezus, if you're here, is how much they take home. Okay, there you go. Microsoft is 35%. No, Zoink. I said it would be really annoying if you...
Get his camera right. Fuck freeze frames. Oh, there it goes. That's the face only.
Oh, there we are. It is what it is. So yeah, Microsoft is 15% above that number. And Levi, my point to that is...
Camera right. Fuck freeze frames. Oh, there it goes. That's the face only.
I figured Microsoft would be rather high. It's just how Bill Gates thinks. He's a gator for profit. His house can't be sold because nobody can pay that much. Yeah. And Levi, to counter your argument, I would say it would not just be a percentage, it would also be a number. And the number would be 100 billion. If your total take home is 100 billion, once you hit 100 billion as revenue, as soon as your revenue hits 100 billion, you now qualify for that 20%. Before that, it doesn't matter. So this is literally just to prevent a single massive company from owning everything. That is the only singular point of this. So again, I want to hear your perspective on why you think that's not viable. You broke the announcement, Zoink. Stop. Stop, bro. Stop. But even with rough estimates, it's still one of those things where it's like, it's understandable that it doesn't seem practical. I'm trying to understand what you want. Taxing companies for revenue gain over their assets. Okay, so Bezos, for instance, for Microsoft, after all taxes and all everything, their take-home per year increased in revenue is 35%. What I'm saying is any company that goes above, and in reference to that, if you look above, Amazon, as one of the most successful companies in the world, and as well as also not one of the most ethical, is only at 10%. So what I'm advocating for is at some point in time, companies be told, sorry bro, you've made too much money, you're too good, let someone else in. Like, I don't understand how anyone could fight against this. It's all it's saying is, sorry, you're a little bit too big, bro. Let someone else play on the fucking field. How is there anything wrong with that? This would not just influence companies to create monopolies by fueling excess process into secondary companies. Well, that would be illegal, Bezos. The whole point of this is we're trying to see what kind of laws would you have to rewrite. We're talking about changing laws. We're talking completely hypothetical about what would we have to do to make this a reality. And would this, like, how would this actually affect companies? Would this cause companies to be more ethical in order to pay their employees and actually hire enough employees and, you know, do what they're supposed to with their employees and be held accountable for it? I think it's not viable because it's not grounded in understanding how monopolies could form. At least modern anti-monopoly legislation targets strategies rather than growth. But, Levi, I'm talking about both strategies and growth. I'm talking about encompassing everything. So that's why I'm asking, what kind of processes, what kind of laws do we need to change in order for it to happen? And all you're saying is, oh, it's not viable. And I'm like, okay, well, let's make it viable. What do we need to make it viable? Give me the ideas and the things that make it viable, right? You cannot stop companies from fueling money into subsidiary companies. That's a fantasy. Why not, Bezos? Why can't you? And we're talking, like, if the whole world comes together and you can't put an offshore account in fucking Sweden anymore. We're talking about, like, completely fixing the banking system. We're talking about completely redoing how companies are basically structured and allowed to operate. And how companies, and like auditing companies and making sure that their money isn't being funneled into these things through personal things. LLCs are anonymous by law. You cannot tell who owns it. It could not be made viable. So what you guys are telling me is the system is so fucked up that it's not, it's literally, like, how detailed a rewrite would be required as a thought
I got
process.
banned from Zoinko.
It's a fun exercise. At what point, income-wise, would such a restriction be useful? Also, subsidiary companies are themselves small companies. So long as such companies can't get handouts from the parent company, then it's all good. See, so Sean, this is my problem. Neither Beezus nor Levi are giving me any way to solve the problem. They're only saying that the problem can't be solved. But every problem can be solved, and this is all hypothetical. So all I'm asking for is other viewpoints other than myself to generate a think tank of ideas to be like, hey, what would these things need to be? I'm fine with living in a capitalistic society. Companies are incentivized to give us stuff in their pursuit for profit. Natural monopolies aren't real. State-enforced monopolies are a more complicated matter. The problem can't be solved by the state. Okay, then we go to the root of it, Levi. Why can't the problem be solved by the state? Like what's stopping the state from doing that? In a fantasy world where governmental officers are ethical, what would be needed? Yeah, see, this is what I mean, Sean, is like, I don't understand how you guys can't get the idea that this is hypothetical. This is completely we're talking breaking everything down from the bottom and building it up. I understand what you're saying. So you're saying there in no possible way, in no possible world, with no possible circumstances could you ever do this. I'm just saying I don't want to live in that world. The problem can't be solved by the state because the existence of the state is the cause of the problem. Okay, Beezus, you don't want to live in that world. Then explain to me why you wouldn't want to live in that world and what would be wrong with that world. Because I think, like, I just don't understand. Because, like I said, this number, 35%, like I said, in a hypothetical world, without these rules, we wind up with a complete monopoly. So so what your guys basically saying is no matter what we do, in no form or any way is it possible for this to happen. If you think such a limitation was put into place, they'd hire more people and pay wages. See, Sean, I think the same way, and I don't understand. Like, I want to know why people don't think that way. Like, if the limitations were there, and the company said, it is, like I said, we want to make it more expensive for the company to not solve the problem. So let's go back to the beginning, guys, and let's go back to the root of it, which is companies not solving the problem. Another strategy against this would be like gerrymandering, where you incorporate a company with a small but reliable return to get your ratio down. But isn't gerrymandering illegal, Levi? This is what I'm trying to say. Is like all of your arguments break the law. I'm talking about a world where we're holding people accountable for breaking the law. So if you break the law, you're done. That's the real problem. Companies aren't incentivized to treat their employees right. Over time, actually makes money from the pockets of the workers. Exactly, Sean. So what I'm trying to say is we need to incorporate systems that incentivize the companies in order to treat their employees right and still and use the cap of money that they get. Gerrymandering is a questionable legality and ethical politics. I'm comparing the strategy to gerrymandering to explain how it functions. But what I'm trying to say, Levi, is you just make all that shit illegal, and if someone does it, you fucking put them in jail. You hold people fucking accountable. That's all I'm saying. In this completely fictional, hypothetical world, we are literally God. Beezus, we are literally God. And we can track it. You don't think we can't track that? I felt so robbed working overtime for a whole paycheck and took home less money than working full-time. Yeah, Sean, that's how they get you. How do you track it? All I want to know. If we're God, then yes, the perfect world can exist. But I'm just saying, like, we cannot track that. It's called the economic calculation problem. Your world is not possible, though. So, even if we had like a quantum entangled perfect AI, it wouldn't be able to figure out where the money is going. Cause like, to me guys, okay, can you explain why? No amount of computation. We have to remove LLC laws completely. If we want what you're asking for. Okay, boom, there, Beezus. That's an answer to a question. Okay, we get rid of LLC laws. Boom, done. Okay, now what? What's the next step? And I'm really confused that there's no amount of computation in the entirety of existence that could calculate where the money's going. I don't... how... That's not... How, like... In a world where money is checked and balanced, Levi, it's not... Every record must be taken of faith, I'm afraid. They say they use X amount of something when they actually used Y and put the rest in storage somewhere. You need to make it illegal for people to own stakes in more than one investment asset. Okay, well that's another one. Boom. Okay, now we have two actionable things that we can do. We can get rid of LLC laws, and we can make it so you can only put one investment. Boom. Okay, is there anything else that we need to do? What's the next step? Like that's what I'm trying to think tank out here, right? It's like, okay, we did this. What's the next step? What's the next step? And eventually, like, how... It's just a thought... It's an imaginary thought process of stepping back and seeing how fucked we are. I want it illegal to rent out property in a state province you don't live in. Sean, I want it to be illegal to not... To literally own more than a certain amount of, like, different land. Like, you can own as much, like, you know... But I'm just saying, like at some point in time, guys, we have to put a cap on things. That's all I'm saying, right? You can make it happen removing all those things. So it's like, yeah, taking a society and building it from scratch, make it illegal for a company to enter into long-term contracts involving monetary exchange with other companies. We're definitely on opposite sides of the political spectrum. Oh, Beezus, I'm not saying that this is like something that should be done. This is just like, I'm brainstorming ideas of how do you... And I don't believe in the idea of a political spectrum. I believe that anyone can have any political ideology. You can have the furthest left ideology and the furthest right ideology. The idea that there's like right, left, and right wing and left wing, I think is fucking ridiculous. Because there are so many good ideas on each side, but each side also has terrible ideas. So why not just eliminate all of the bad ideas and only use the good ideas from both spectrums? Like, that's why I call myself a centrist, because I want everyone to meet in the middle. I want everyone to be like, okay, these are the good things about this. We can all acknowledge those are good. Boom, there we go. Okay, these are the good things about this. Okay, boom. Like, I'm an advocate for universal basic income. I'm also an advocate for euthanasia. I'm also an advocate for capitalism. I'm also an advocate for, like scientific research and believing that your education isn't solely to get a job to help society in a physical mandate such as, like, you know, like, I think the arts and entertainment is extremely important to a society. Left-right dynamics make the most sense when you understand it as a question of whether society should be hierarchically ordered or not. But what I'm saying, Levi, is why can't we like take the idea, like, okay, let's do an exercise, guys. What's a left-wing good idea that contradicts a right-wing good idea? Most monopolies are like utilities, ISPs, Google, and railroads. All of those are benefits of a capitalistic society. When we remove the capitalism, we lose the bonuses we get from those companies existing. I like universal basic health care being applied to all citizens. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how it would work myself. Yeah, I don't know how it would work. All I know is, like I said, if you want universal basic income, my universal basic income is living in a 1x1 room where you get one small bowl of rice a day, like a glass of water, and your toilet, your fridge, and your bed are all on the same tile. That's what I mean by universal basic income. You have enough food to barely survive, and you have a roof over your head. That is all you have. And that is provided by the state through taxes to every single citizen. I don't understand how there's any negative to that. You remove hunger, you remove housing issues, homeless. And if you tell me that everyone wants to sit on a square, that their toilet is next to their bed, that's next to their stove, that's next to their fridge, and eat only rice and drink only water, I'm telling you, you're being dishonest. People would still work, they just, if they couldn't, because of, like, their job being done, they would have a way to live, right? Half of the right-wingers are more left than the so-called left-wingers. They don't vote according to the original party's platforms. They just listen to the loudest yellers. I missed from the ad break. No, Beezus! Unfortunately, it's okay. Half of the right-wingers are more left than the so-called left-wingers. They don't vote according to original party platforms. They just listen to loudest yeller. Most of the good left-wing ideas are ones to do with the universality of human dignity, which would contradict the right-wing monarchist idea, hereditary right to rule. Okay, so Levi, then we look at the right side and we say, okay, we get rid of everything that has to do with hierarchical rule and replace it with universality of human dignity. Because monarchist and hereditary rule is, yeah, bad. So we remove that, boom, that's gone, okay. And we replace it with human dignity, boom. Okay, now we have two foundational left-wing and right-wing ideas. Universal basic income and human dignity and, you know, capitalism. You can still have everything under the sun. I just don't understand why there should be a bare minimum in society. I don't understand why people advocate against a bare minimum in society. And I don't think anyone has ever given me a reason to try to think to change my mind. I just try to explain to them that their understanding of universal basic income is not my understanding of universal basic income. It's getting the old foggies out of the limelight and power. That's the trick. Well, Sean, we're not even, like in this hypothetical, like, we're trying to construct something completely new. So, relying on the failed structures that we have in reality, I think is just straight up the wrong way to look at it. Do you know what I mean? Like, cause that's where I'm trying to come from. Like, I'm trying to come from a direction of, like I said, like, plain and simple, what's the solution? And I think I'm pretty, like, uneducated and retarded. So I need other people to change my mind on things. And you guys change my mind on stuff all the time, right? So I'd say it's pretty easy to change my mind. It depends on if you believe that the people working hard should have to support those not doing it. Yes, it benefits the lowest common denominator that can't provide for themselves, but at the same time, people would exploit it. Well, you wouldn't be able to exploit it, Beezus, because you literally would, like, it would be like having, like, the downtown area is like, it's like a vending machine that sends out a bowl of rice every day. Like the entire process of this would be automated. You'd basically be in jail. Like that's pretty much, you'd basically be in jail if you were in, no one wants to be in this situation. If you're in this situation, you're basically homeless. And the other thing is, you, like, in these areas, these are like drug-free areas. So if you're like a drug addict or whatever, you don't get universal basic income. If you do drugs, you, like all drugs are legal, but if you do drugs, you give up your universal basic rights. Basically, if you do drugs, you aren't considered human. That's the punishment for doing drugs. Including smoking weed, doing alcohol. I would be among the victims of this. Any government office should have a 4-year term and a limit on number of terms that can be run at any level, so they either move up or stop. I'm all for Dabtor's prison returning. If that's on top of existing programs, taxes go up by like 20%. If it's not, you're gonna be most people left. Yes, see, I disagree with the drug part. See, Beezus, that's the thing, is it's not that it would cost more money. We would just be taking the money that we have and we would be giving it spread across. And instead of giving people, like, for instance, if you're on food stamps... Why the fuck are you buying bags of chips? And chocolate bars? Like $12 worth of chocolate bars and you can't afford milk for your kid? I'm sorry, but that's fucking bullshit. Like, to me, that's just absolute, utter fucking bullshit. That money should be going to people that actually deserve it. That's honestly pretty aggressive. I'm fine with people getting welfare. No. See, it's like, that's what I'm saying. Is like, I think people get too much and it should be spread more about. But that's just me. Like, you know, it's like, if you can afford to get, like, Stu fans able to fade you better than... Exactly! Sean, exactly! I can't afford fucking chocolate bars and I'm busting my ass off. Why the fuck do you get chocolate bars for free? That's what I'm saying. So, I understand where you're coming from, Beezus, that people should have the dignity to be able to, for instance, you should be able to buy a chocolate bar no matter what. As a dignity of a person, you should be able to just buy a chocolate bar. You should be able to. But I'm sorry, if you're complaining that you don't have a block of chocolate is like $4. Yes, Levi, but what I'm talking about is, like, literally people come into Walmart who come in and, like, sometimes our managers will pay for their milk or, like, their baby formula and shit. Because they'll come in and they'll buy chips and chocolate bars with their money because they know that they can get extra shit from the employees because they're like, oh shit, you're trying to feed your family. To me, those kinds of people should not be getting welfare. You abused your privilege, now we're taking your privilege away. That's what I mean by being held accountable for things. So it's like, you can either buy this chocolate bar or you can buy milk. Or you can buy this chocolate bar or you can buy baby formula. Welfare tracking is super hard to track. But you could get the businesses to do it, Beezus. So for instance, you could say, hey, these people have had, let's say, $100 this month paid for them by employees of the store because they said that they couldn't afford things to feed their kid. Right? So now, as an employee of the store, I can report these people, and you have the financial statements right there. Chocolate isn't a need, so food stamps shouldn't cover it. Buy a bag of chocolate chips. Make a batch of cookies. Exactly, Sean. Buy the essentials from the bottom. So I don't understand. The welfare tracking is super hard to track. Make the government force companies to do it. Companies have to track their money, and they have to be audited. So it's like, in my opinion, what you guys are advocating for is you might as well take away all of the things and say, oh, companies aren't actually held liable for anything, which means I could go into Walmart, take all of the money out of the drawer, put it in my pocket, and no one would be held liable for it. Like, in my mind, like, that's the direction that kind of ideology leads. So all I'm trying to say is, if you're on welfare, it should be needs only. Otherwise, you shouldn't be on welfare. And I don't understand how people don't understand that. Because, like Sean said, getting paid more... Like I said, there are people that literally come to Canada and they get paid, like, thousands of dollars a month from the government just to basically exist. Well, I get paid, like $1,600 a month to fucking work a full-time job. So I'm sorry, but I don't want my taxes going to that. I want my taxes going to the homeless people. Does that make sense? Like, that's kind of where, like, this whole thing comes from, is like the fact that I think if you're on welfare, like, yes, everyone has the right and dignity to eat a fucking chocolate bar. You're more right-wing than I am on this issue. Well, there you go. So that's all I can say. So on that one issue, I'm extremely right-wing. But, like, on the other side, it's like, I just don't understand. Like, all your hyper left win on monopoly issues and hyper right on welfare. See, what I don't understand, Beezus, is why the two can't coexist. You're all radically far left from my perspective. I mean, okay, well then let me ask you this. If this is my solution to homelessness and hunger, without increasing taxes, just lowering the quality that people can get and taking the amount of money that we have and spreading it more evenly among more people and giving more people a lower barrier of privilege. That's my baseline solution for fixing hunger and homelessness. So I will ask you this then. What is your solution to fixing homelessness and food and hunger? Because I think my plan is implementable. We strip the people of the things that they have, and we give it to more people. Welcome back, Jenny Bob! Does that make sense? I live in a town with like 20% homeless. They're almost all mentally ill. This is not a problem you can fix with money. But I mean, Beezus, wouldn't those people be better off sitting inside of a box, being fed, than being out on the street? That's what I mean. Like my solution basically gives those people a home and food and protects society from them. But they don't have to stay there. They get more money in the current system. But what's up, 13? We are talking about a very heated, basically, debate about how to spend welfare money, essentially. That's where we're at right now, is spending welfare money. Charity is the only viable solution to long-standing social ills. I don't believe that, Levi. Last night I wrote my daily 1K words. Nice, 13. Hell yeah, brother. That's what it's all about. So, Beezus, you're saying this problem can't be fixed with money. But we're not giving these people money. We are giving them a roof over their head and a meal a day. So can you explain to me how giving them a meal a day and a head... 13, that's the idea. 13, that's the idea. Yes, Beezus. They have a 1x1 square. So you have a 1x1 meter square, right? So, like, imagine, like, my arms reach in a circle like this, right? And then it's like, okay, this is your toilet, right? That's your toilet. This is your fridge right here. This is your fridge. This is your stove right here. And your bed's in between them all. So you gotta literally sleep with your head beside the shitter. Okay? 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 And then you get a cup of water and a tiny thing of rice. That's it. Every day. You get a cup of water and you get a thing of rice. That's it. That's all you get. It's fucking prison, but you can leave. I mean, it makes sense building some sort of super prison to control crime, hunger, and homelessness. But 13, they would be able to leave. It wouldn't be a prison in the fact they would have to stay there, but it's like they would have a place to go. Sounds like you've added more issues. See, this is what I don't understand. How have I added more issues? I've taken all the money that's going to people that are buying chocolate bars with welfare, and I've given them to homeless people that are now drinking water and eating rice. So, like, my thing is, like, where down the line does that translation miss with people that there's an argument against it? Does that make sense? But, I mean, it basically, the idea is that it's basically prison if you don't want to do it. And they can sleep. Yeah, they can do whatever they want. They're not in prison, but they basically are. So, it solves hunger, and it solves homelessness, and it takes us all the money that we're spending on taxes for welfare. Exactly, Sean. It's like, why do they get food stamps, but they don't get a house? It's because we need to literally build these 1x1x1 cages that are literally, like, in the middle of a town, and it's like, you've got, like, 1,000 different rooms in one thing. It's literally, like, the hallway is, like, this fucking thin or shit. But consider this, if building a super prison country won't severely hurt the economy. Well, it's not like a super prison. You build a shit ton of them everywhere, 13. And you build them like black obelisk spires. And you have like a single elevator that's in the middle. And you know, it has like 60 floors on it. And there's like 20 or 30 rooms on each floor. And it can fit inside the same range as a normal sized house. I will tell you from massive amounts of experience that homeless people will not want what you're offering. That's also, I've seen what happens when you give homeless people houses. If we were allowed to build homeless shelters like that, people would already be doing it. There's an issue with building regulations hidden under the surface here. So, again, we just fixed that. They destroy it fully within a year. We don't need to build anything. They're perfectly livable, empty prisons. So, we've already got the housing. Just replace the bars with a standard wall. So if you don't want to work and earn better housing, you're stuck there. Boom! Sean, there you go. You solved it. So that's all I'm asking for is solutions. Sean, you completely solved the issue. Every time, I've never seen it not happen. I mean, that's completely fair, Beezus. Like, that's completely fair. But what I'm saying, Beezus, is whether they want to live there or not, the offering is there. And the offering is built into society. So let's say, and this is all thinking for the future, right? Like let's say AI, there's some sort of breakthrough in AI tomorrow. And every company in the world fires every single person and replaces them all with AI. What do we do? And all the CEOs and all the leaders are just fucking laughing at all the citizens. What do we do? Suppose you're like a normal homeless person, just down on your luck. Do you want to go homeless Mega Camp 1 or a nice urban street? Universal basic income and a different problem. So, okay, so Beezus, what problem am I creating? I'm trying to wrap my head. You're talking about a weakened welfare system. Debitor's prison was where people who borrowed money and then failed to pay it off were sent. The debt would be paid by the government, by the debtor, who would be required to stay in that prison while working off the debt. I like that idea, Sean. But like, so, what, so, okay, I'm talking about a weakened welfare system, Beezus. Okay, that makes sense. Yes. Build over 1 million houses within America alone, which will shoot up prices by a massive amount. Won't the idea of replacing AI with workers cause a global riot, if not human extinction? See, I like where you're thinking with this, 13, because that's my exact thought, is the only, right now, if tomorrow, if every single person in the world was fired, basically human existence would end. Or like human civilization would end. So what I'm advocating for is a plan to prevent that from happening. Then we have to upkeep those houses, which I promise will be destroyed within a year. Okay, Beezus, I'm going to solve the problem. No. Beezus, I'm gonna solve the problem. Okay, but Beezus, I'm gonna solve the problem. If you damage the house, you go to jail. Okay, now the homeless people are in jail. I solved the problem. Okay, what problem did I create now? Loot zero, true. But that's what I'm saying. It's like I don't think you're thinking big enough or outside the box enough. I'm just not gonna morally agree with you. Oh, we're not talking about morals here, Beezus. This is, I don't morally agree with this. Like I said, I'm just saying solutions. I want actionable solutions. I don't care how moral they are. I don't care if it's burn down the world. I just want solutions. Does that make sense? Because I agree with you, Beezus. I don't morally agree with this, but I think it's what has to happen. We could enslave AI to solve humans' problems.
Final solution to the homeless problem.
Well, we killed them all, obviously. It's the only solution. You just kill them. Turn them into food. You turn them into food, you poison the food, you feed the food to the homeless, you repeat the cycle. Eventually you don't have to use poison because the food itself is poisoned enough by its own poison to poison, you know, it's like a poison that continues on. You're talking about rounding up all the homeless and putting them in jail because that's what 90% of them would be doing in your situation, in your system. Yes, Beezus, that is what I'm advocating. In this system, that's what would be advocated for. And those people in prison would be doing manual labor. Extremely unethical, extremely immoral. You should not do it. Don't fucking do it. But it is an actionable solution. Does that make sense? Because there is no solution within a moral framework. So if we can't find a solution within a moral framework, we have to find the most immoral, or sorry, the least immoral and most ethical way of doing it. Why is what we're doing not working? Because the solution is right anarchism, but that's a hard sell. We pay a decent amount in taxes to make everyone happier in this current world. So So, Beezus, I'm not talking about the current world, though. I'm talking about 50, 60 years in the world, in the future. 100 years in the future. We're talking, like the premise of this is, we're talking about a world where all of a sudden, like, we're talking idiocracy. 500 years into the future. Like, what is our current route going to put us? Are we going into the world of idiocracy, where Brando owns where Microsoft is the only company? We're initially talking about homelessness in my frame of view. Well, the homelessness came out of UBI, came out of companies. If we're talking about AI taking over the world, that's different. Well, we're talking about AI replacing jobs, just like automation did. So it's like a whole new wave of automation, but without creating new jobs in a sustained market. Because all new jobs would be created within a context of entertainment. So there's kind of three caveats to this conversation. Is companies treating their employees ethically and morally. People being able to survive on a bare minimum with universal basic income. And companies only being able to have a certain level of profit, which is still ridiculously, insanely, retardedly high that only like 4 companies in the entire world would ever reach. Those are kind of the 3 caveats to this conversation. Universal basic income needs to be quite a bit higher than you're saying in 200 years. But we need to start somewhere, Beezus, right? And it's like, as more, like, my thing is, like, this is how I view the evolution of it, right? You start with this 1 by 1 meter, like, prison box, basically. Like Sean said, we just take old prisons, take the bars off, put normal doors on it, and we just shuffle people in there and say, okay, if you got nowhere to live, you can live here, and we can supply work for you, and we can figure something out, and you'll get fed. And that's where welfare goes. Welfare, boom, goes to these like so-called prisons, fake prisons. Okay, boom, that's solved. We've got that done. That's first step. And as more and more people wind up in this situation, welfare is the start. When AI takes our jobs, we increase the strength of it and put a burden of payment in corporations, and the jobs are all done. But if we build that welfare state, as people, like, as more and more people get into that welfare state because they don't have jobs, it's going to emphasize how much that needs to be expanded. And eventually it's going to get to a point where people will just expand it themselves. Our welfare state right now is appropriate for the world. When the world shifts, we expand on it. I mean, see, Beezus, I disagree with you because I have a physical, like, experience of saying, I could solve this problem if given the opportunity. Which is holding people who get welfare accountable to what they spend. Have you considered taking 95% of rich people's patrimony and distributing it before taking drastic actions that might lead to global rioting? I mean, there's another solution, 13. That's all we're looking for, is, like, solutions. Because I'm amazing, Smokey. Trust me, I'm just great. But yeah, so Smokey, what's your opinion on this? Me, when I want to nuke the economy. Well, okay. So, universal basic income. Taking all of my problem, Smokey, is if you're on welfare, you shouldn't be buying a chocolate bar. So this is coming from my own personal experience, Smokey. Working at Walmart as a cashier. There are people that come in on the regular that are clearly drug addicts that get employees to pay for their milk, their bread, and, like, their baby formula for their kid because they can't afford it. But they come in and they buy chocolate bars and they buy bags of chips. So what I'm saying is hold those people accountable and take away their welfare. Take the welfare money that they're spending on chocolate bars and chips and give it to homeless people in order to give them food and shelter. That's what I'm advocating for. What do you think, Smokey? I agree that everyone should be allowed to eat a chocolate bar. But if you can't afford to feed your kid, your baby, you can't afford to eat a fucking chocolate bar. I'm sorry, bro. You fucked up. You did something wrong. Life happens. So you don't get to eat a fucking chocolate bar. Feed your fucking kids. America has such a low amount of taxes and still provides more than what you're saying. There's literally no reason to do what you're saying. Okay, so Beezus, you said there's literally no reason to do what you're saying. Then I'm just gonna write it out.
They make employees of the company pay out of their own pocket because of sympathy. What do you think of that?
Not sure, to be honest, bro. If they choose not to feed their kid, then they shouldn't be getting money. I agree, Smokey. Because they are making a choice to spend the food on chocolate bar and chips because they know that people will feel sorry for them. So, Beezus, what you're saying is that people that abuse the system should not be held accountable for abusing the system. Because, like, I mean, that's a fair argument to have, but, like, I need a stance of an argument of some kind. Employees are required to pay taxes for the betterment of lowest income denominator already. But what I'm saying, Beezus, is these people should be held accountable for taking advantage of people's sympathy. I team, the system shouldn't exist, so I'm in the clear here. Well, there you go, Levi. You don't even want the system to exist. So that makes sense. Welfare is meant to help families, not fund habits. No excuse for kids going hungry while parents waste it. I agree, Smokey. So then I asked Beezus why he's against it, and all I wanted, like it's not like you're wrong. It's I just want to hear an argument. Like, okay, I have my argument. My argument is I don't want them buying chocolate bars and causing, like, other people for sympathy. And if I have... Oh, I was at an ad break. Okay, sorry, Beezus. We'll start again. So I said, like I said, if you are taking advantage of employees... Here, I'll just do it. I'll just do the TTS again. So it's in the chat.
They make employees of the company pay out of their own pocket because of sympathy. What do you think of that?
My argument is I'm fine with them buying chocolate bars because it doesn't cost the average citizen much money. Okay, Beezus, I agree with you. I think if you want to live in a society, you have the obligation to take care of the weakest. Okay, Smokey. Chocolate bars are not a luxury like a car or a phone. Okay, Smokey. Can you be like a deliberator here? So, Beezus and 13. You're saying that someone should not be held accountable for buying chocolate bars instead of feeding their kids. Am I hearing that right? Like, this is what I don't understand. Is like this just doesn't compute in my head. That's a different issue of child neglect. But no, it's but Beezus, that's what I'm trying. I don't understand. I'm saying they are committing child neglect through buying these chocolate bars. So if me as a citizen knows this and has an opportunity to report this, then should there not be a system for me as a citizen who's paying taxes that go into welfare? Are they? It sounds like people are buying that stuff for them. So what? Here's one way. If they lose their money, the only people that will suffer is their children. So what you're saying, Beezus, is that you agree with me. Because what I'm hearing is, if they don't feed their kids, then they should get in trouble. And what I'm saying is, if they don't feed their kids, they should get in trouble. So we're on the same page, right? And all I'm saying is, as a person who is witness to that happening, I should have an avenue to report that person in order for them to lose their welfare. That's not like CPS or some bullshit like that. But, you know, maybe it should be. But I shouldn't be held accountable as the company should be held accountable for selling that product. If they lose their welfare, their children are dead. No, Beezus. Because if they lose their welfare, they can't buy chocolate bars anymore.
But employee will still buy their kids food.
They are feeding their kids, though. The employees are buying their food for them to give to their kids. Exactly. So if the employees are... if they're cheating the system in order to get the employees to pay for their kids' food, they should get in trouble. Do you agree or not? Because 13... I am not allowed to, as an employee of Walmart, I am not allowed to enact in any way on an employee, or sorry, on a customer of the store. I'm not allowed to do anything, and it would come back to me if I reported it. Because there's not enough space in society for the already rampant problem that is parentless children. I'm going to fault the system, not the people taking advantage of the system. But Levi, doesn't that just cause more problems? Shouldn't we hold them both accountable? We should hold the system accountable, and we should hold the people that are abusing the system, because every system's gonna have loopholes. All you have to do is set precedents, so when people use those loopholes, you say, hey, I got you, don't fucking do that. That's all I'm advocating for. Does that make sense? Like, I want both. I want the system to be accountable, and I want the people to be accountable. Not just one or the other. I want both. What problem are there in the current system for what you're talking about? Are you saying there's a massive amount of children starving because of chocolate bars? No, I'm using it as an example, Beezus. In that case, you are accusing a parent of neglecting a child based only on the purchase of a chocolate bar. No, 13.
I am charging them based on the fact they are making other people pay for their groceries.
The chocolate bar is a side fact. The chocolate bar is just where their money is going. It's the fact that they're using sympathy and a child in order to abuse other people. You just fundamentally disagree with welfare as a whole then. The parent chooses their own luxury over the child's needs. That's a problem that needs to be fixed. Exactly, Sean. That's why, Beezus, I don't understand where you're coming from with this. What do you mean I just fundamentally disagree with welfare as a whole, then? So you're saying the fundamental basis of welfare is for people. The fundamental impossibility to a government institution with a libertarian understanding of property. So I'm unable to truly engage with this premise without my reasoning coming back to a complete repeal of the system. I can appreciate that, Levi. That makes sense. It's understandable, and I agree with you. Complete repeal of the system. But it is, like I said, it's got to start in small steps. And what's the first step? The first step has to be holding people accountable. So I want a welfare system, but I want the people who are using the welfare system to be held accountable to it. But Beezus, I will also say this, in my perfect society, so I guess this is another question, Beezus, is, I'll type it out so that it's there, right? And people can see it. How do I say this? Man, I can't think of a good way to say it. I guess, okay, the best, I guess, this is just the simplest way I can do it.
What are audits?
I think that's the simplest branch we can break it down to.
Should your taxes be audited?
Simple solution is to stop the food stamps card from covering luxury items such as chocolate bars, candy, and as much as it hurts me personally, soda and chips. If those things aren't covered by food stamps, then the sympathy trick isn't viable. Exactly, Sean. There you go. So, but Sean, do you understand what I mean by what are audits and should your taxes be audited? And what I mean by your taxes are audit, you think we should stop them from buying luxury items, and I do not agree. We just fundamentally do not. No. Beezus, see, this is where I think you're getting it wrong. Beezus, I don't want them to have to stop buying luxury goods. I want them to be able to buy a chocolate bar. Okay? I want them to be able to buy a chocolate bar. But I don't want them to be able to buy a chocolate bar instead of baby formula. If they have a baby and they can't afford baby formula, should not be buying chocolate bar. If you have baby, you can afford baby formula, you can feed kids, you can buy 2 chocolate bar. So I think that's where it's like there's some sort of fundamental miscommunication between what I'm trying to say and what I think you think I'm saying. People gain more money when they have children per month. That problem doesn't exist unless they're malicious. Thank you, Beezus. Exactly. So what I'm saying is the people that are maliciously doing it. Don't you think there should be an avenue for someone such as me, as an employee who sees it happen, to be able to do something about it? And what I'm saying is, in my Walmart contract, if I called CPS on those people, I would get fired for interfering with an employee. That's what I'm saying. Is there's no avenue of recourse for me. And if I tell someone to do it and it comes back to me that I told that person, I also get fired. That's what I'm talking about. So I think maybe somewhere down the line the plot got completely lost. You've been to a point where you've been wanted to report someone to CPS after seeing them buy. No, Beezus.
After a year of seeing over probably $3,000 of employees buy for their 3 kids.
That's what I'm talking about. Not the chocolate, like it's the fact that they're literally not taking care of their kids, and I can prove it financially, but nothing can be done about it. I'm just saying 13. Like, it's literally in my contract. I'm not allowed to intervene with like that. No matter what. Just being an employee at Walmart means I'm not allowed to do that. It puts my job on the line. It's crazy. They don't let you do anything. You can report people for tax fraud or unreported income. If I do that, Beezus, and it comes back to me that I reported it, I get fired. You cannot take any action against a customer because it's the idea of customer company confidentiality. Because you're working with something that is so dear to a person, such as survival as food, it's like a patient-client privilege disclosure. That you literally have to, like, sign it to work as an employee at Walmart. So anything you learn about employees is non-actionable in the real world. Do their children look like they're starving to you, or are you making an implication based off of their purchases? I am making an implication based off of their purchases. But is that not a start of the investigation to say, hey, I think something's fishy is going on here? If it's the second, then you're upset about the money they're getting monthly, probably. But Beezus, what I'm saying is the reason their kids don't look like they're starving is because they're getting people to pay for their kids' food. So all I'm saying is I think there's something fishy going on, and I would like to be able to report it. But because Walmart is a company that does non-interference, I'm not allowed to, or risk my job. And I think that should be illegal. Beezus, you would look at their pay stubs, their receipts, and you would see that the only thing they ever buy is like chocolate bars and chips. So you'd be like, okay, well, how did you feed your kids if all the $2,000 that we gave you went to chocolate bars and chips? Like, I'm exaggerating. I'm absolutely exaggerating. But I'm saying, like, I don't understand what you mean by you can't track that. You look at their bank account and the money that they received and the receipts that they've spent the money on, and you say, hey, that's not milk, eggs, bread, and cereal. That's chips, fucking, you know, they could say, I worked a day for a neighbor, he gave us food. Then, Beezus, you go to the neighbor, and you ask the neighbor. That's the next step in the investigation. Okay, great. Now we go talk to your neighbor. And your neighbor says, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I gave him $300 for food because the bastard won't feed his fucking kids. Caught. Caught! But he would be in contempt for lying in a criminal investigation. He could go to jail for lying. Do you think he'd really risk that? Like, this is the extreme we're talking in order to prevent it from happening. Like, if you're, like, you'd be literally be an accomplice to, you would be an accomplice to child abuse. Probably close to 60% of people lie on their taxes. Okay, Beezus. So then 60% of those people should go to jail. And if you say that's not possible, I say, yes it is. It's not child abuse, the kid is getting fed. No, in my opinion, Levi, it's child abuse via proxy, via an associate. That's how I view it. I view it in degree orders from extension. You are a bad actor. How are you a bad actor? You are using sympathy. How is the other person a bad actor? They are falling for the sympathy and they are enabling. Both the people are in the wrong. Both the people go to jail. It's not moral. It's not ethical. But it will stop the problem. Hypothetical child abuse because they're not buying food for their kids, which in theory could mean the kids aren't being fed. It is the intent. That's all that matters, is the intent. They are intending to fuck over the system for their own gain. Where do the kids go after that? Beezus, that's the problem. You're right, that creates a problem. The kids are fucked. But guess what? That's the parents' fault. And that's life. You got bad spawn RNG, man. Hey, at least you were born in a first world country. At least you weren't born in fucking South Africa. You know? It could be worse, man. It fucking sucks, yeah, but it could be worse. That's how I view it. I view it as it's a first world privilege. That, like, sorry, bud. Yeah, you have to die. Because your dad bought a Snickers last week. It's massively anti-welfare, but I'm on Beezus' side here because he's arguing his side well. You have to die because your dad bought a Snickers last week. But we're not talking about that, Beezus. We're talking about a year. Possibly years. Like, the newest is just born, the oldest is 6 years. In most cases, some family member would be taken, would take the children. Yeah. But, like, so... Again, I don't see how... I mean, I guess I'm just dumb. I'm gonna have to accept that I'm just dumb. And I don't understand. And my fantasy world just doesn't make sense to you guys. I mean, that's... I don't know what else to say. Like, I just... If me wanting people to be held accountable for their intentions is not viable for this world, then, I mean, it's really dark and fucked up to say, but, like, no wonder I don't leave my house. I don't want to be a part of that world. I don't want to influence that world. I don't want to be influenced by that world. Like, if I'm advocating for taking all of the good things and using those, and getting rid of all of the bad things, and the good things help people and the bad things hurt people, that's how you can tell if they're good or bad. Those are the standards we use. If we can't construct that world in any way, shape, or form possible, or people don't believe, like, all hope is gone that people don't believe that that's a type of world that can exist, then I guess I'm just gonna have to be the most naive person in the world and believe that I think it could work, and if I can't convince anyone else, then that's my problem, not someone else's problem. Does that make sense? Winco Foods would report them immediately. CPS would be involved almost at once. They wouldn't let any luxury be purchased before the requirements. Formula would be on the belt first. We also have WIC, Women, Infants, Children. They provide additional funding for infant care and most partum and postpartum for the mother. So, Sean, what you're saying is these systems already exist. So you're saying the systems that I'm advocating for already exist. They aren't perfect by any means, but they exist. Okay, so answer me this. If those systems exist, why is the company that I work for legally allowed to say that I can't intervene? Because on a fundamental level, that's what this is about. This is about someone with evidence being allowed to intervene. And the only way to catch people is for people to get reported. Because you signed a contract, it's their policy, and the Waltons are not the best character in the world. Because they might be liable if their employees harass customers. I'm not saying it's not justified. I mean, I actually kind of agree with it because of the things that, as an employee, as a cashier, like, you learn about people through their purchases. So, like, to me, it's completely understandable. I'm just like, I wish it wasn't there. I wish it was illegal. Even though I understand why it's there. And in some cases, it can help. And it does prevent things. But I think in the worst cases, it makes the worst situation as opposed to preventing the worst cases. Right? So you gotta look at, well, what are the outcomes? Well, the outcomes are actually worse than what it's preventing. So maybe it shouldn't be there. That's all I'm trying to say. So my question is, I don't understand why Bezos and Levi are against that. For the same reason you're not allowed to say whatever you want on Reddit. They can't arrest you, but they can kick you out of their product, breaking their TOS. So that's another thing, Bezos, that I would say is that in my perfect world, you wouldn't, like, okay, you can't be a publisher. It might not be worth it to carve out special exceptions, since that makes the issue more difficult to dispute if you're found potentially in breach. I mean, fair enough. But I still think it's like the contracts themselves should be, you know, a buddy of mine flicked his finger in front of his daughter's mouth because she cursed. He didn't even contact her lips. It was to startle her. But he got reported and the kids were taken away within the week. See, and that's the worst part, Sean, is people that shouldn't get their kids taken away get their kids taken away. And people that should get their kids taken away don't get their kids taken away. So all I'm advocating for is a system where the people that don't, like, shouldn't get their kids taken away don't get their kids taken away. And people that do need to get their kids taken away get their kids taken away. And if someone's there to provide the proof of it, or if there's a mechanism there to provide proof of it, that mechanism should be used. But I would counter with this, Bezos. You want to fix problems the government has been working toward fixing for about a century. Fortunately, the world needs even the bad parents because there's such a shortage. Loot Surreal, or Loot Zero, welcome. Beezus, the problem is the government doesn't want to fix the problem. So what I'm saying, like this all came from, is I'm advocating for changing laws, hypothetically, that prevent all of this from happening, and creating a structure and a plan for that. And the entirety of this is like, okay, building the economy and structure of the tree in my book. Because I don't know anything about economics. I don't know anything about government. I don't know anything about welfare. How am I supposed to develop a government inside of a tree with a universal basic income when I don't understand that? They definitely do. They try and kick you off if you abuse the welfare system all the time, and will literally stop you from using it if you don't actively look for work, at least where I live. Okay, Beezus, then why... I'm gonna concede to agree with both of you because apparently you're making my point better than I am. I'm making my point so bad, you guys think I'm on the other fucking side. The real issue is that adopting costs too much and is too strict a requirement. You have to own a house and be a foster parent for X years before you're allowed to adopt. My brother is a pharmacist. He was only able to adopt one child. I mean, we don't fully disagree with each other. Oh, I know. It's true. I just disagree with the extreme points you're making on top of it. My extreme points are just there to add emphasis to how far things can go. But you're right, everything is very hyperbolic, very extreme, and I always like to take things to the end of their path. I don't like to see just the root and the origin. I like to see the tree after it's grown. Does your story have a scene where a parent is arrested for buying a chocolate bar? No, 13, but I will make the comparison to the story that I'm doing now, where the parent of this character... So I'll give you an idea, and you guys tell me if this makes sense. I'm actively going to make it my life goal to write down every company in these ads and never buy their products again. True, Beezus. Okay, so, Duarte is 12. His parents own a paper company that's basically a monopoly inside of the tree, and everyone writes, like, poems, plays, and, like, basically they write everything on this, like, parchment that's monopolized by Duarte's parents. Duarte's 12 and wants to be an adventurer. His parents adamantly refuse at any point in time him to do anything with adventurers because they want him to follow in the family footsteps because they need him to progress the family company. In my book, this would be considered child abuse. Does that make sense? And again, 13, it's not getting arrested for buying a chocolate bar. It's getting arrested for neglecting your kid. This is where I'm like, I feel like I'm up against the media because you guys keep bringing up the chocolate bar, but the chocolate bar really has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that they're not feeding their kids. You already get arrested for child abuse. That's borderline. Adventuring is dangerous, so a parent wouldn't want that. However, you're forcing your child to follow a certain path that should be illegal. Exactly, Sean. That's the idea. Is it's supposed to be super controversial. How, like, to me, it's like not letting your kid walk across the street by themselves until they're like 18. You can legally report people for child abuse and do it anonymous, so your company would never know. But you're still risking it. Beezus. And if the company, what if Walmart owns that company and looks at the files because they have the rights to? And all of a sudden, I've given my anonymity towards Walmart, who knows me, who has all the privileges. I don't keep bringing up the chocolate. I keep bringing up the fact that the kid gets fed. Your issue doesn't seem to actually be the kid's not getting fed. My issue is the intent behind the person. It's not what they're doing, it's why they're doing it. The why is what's important. So why are they not buying food for their kids? And the answer is because they know through sympathy they can get other people to buy food for their kids. So via proxy, that allows them to spend all of their welfare money on luxury goods. I don't know how much simpler I can break it down. So you look at the intent of the person. The intent of the person is manipulating the law. You say, okay, well, if you're not spending the welfare to feed your kids, you don't need the welfare. I promise you I've understood your point the whole time. Okay. So I'm the one who, I'm the one who's retarded. I'm the one who doesn't understand. I'm the one who's uneducated. I don't understand. That's all I can say is, I don't understand then. It's a chain of events. If the system held them accountable for buying their kid food with welfare money, don't worry, this is how people get wiser. It's true. It's just I disagree with taking welfare away from people unless they're drastically abusing it. I also think it's a lot harder to track than you're thinking.
All my Reviets and bank statements show that I bought junk food over $3,000 of it. Does this constitute as abuse? Receipts.
So much more money spent by the government to expand the program, so much money is untraceable by the IRS. Okay, Beezus. So then I'm saying...
The cameras at Walmart show them at the till buying the chocolate bar with me there them paying cash. I give them the receipt and they align you the times on the camera. Up. How does that not solve it?
Government programs would have to expand so much to interact with every Walmart security camera and look through them for each person. This is billions of dollars.
But I am not talking about everyone, I am saying. I have the information, I do it as an employee, no need to do everyone, just the report. How many % of 911 calls are fake?
Creating a task force to specifically tackle these things would just open up another program for the government to misuse IMO anyways. But Beezus, these is Walmart the only place you're allowed to spend your welfare, or does every business have to have these security measures in place? No, Levi. All companies have security programs in place. So all I'm saying is if someone reports something, there is a simple 1, 2, 3 button that you can press to confirm it. It takes 3 seconds if you have the infrastructure and everything set up. All you have to do is go into the government database, look up the camera file, look up the date of the file of the data. Boom. Okay, I lined up the date. I look at the camera for 3 seconds. Okay, that's the person there. Okay, make a call. Yep, okay. Yep, confirmed. All right, done. How do they do it anyways? Like I don't understand. Like, you're using the same channels that you would use anyways, that already exist. I'm just saying, like, allow the public to present the evidence. Here's an idea for welfare money. A credit card exclusively for primary needs like bread and water and nothing else. Does it work for your building? Oh, 13. It's just a concept idea. They're like, for my world, because think about this, 13. The reason why there's nothing in my world inside of the tree is because you do not get tired. There is no fatigue. There is no sleep. There is no hunger. There is no pain. There is no nothing. You instantly heal. The only way to die is to have your head cut off. Your body can't even die. Your mind dies before your body does, and then they have a euthanasia ritual. So everything anyone gets in the tree is a luxury because they don't need it to survive. Does that make sense, 13? So there's no need for this universal basic income. Everyone just literally survives. So that creates a premise that survival itself is universal basic income. It doesn't matter how easy it is. You're asking to send out a group to monitor it with each report. And I promise you, once this program is in place, there would be tens of thousands of reports. The team would have to look through each one, discuss among themselves if it's a legitimate report or not, and it would take a massive amount of money to pay this team during this process, and it would take years to sort through.
But don't we do that A and B 6 ways?
But don't we do that anyways? Like, that's what I'm trying to say, Beezus, is we already do that. So, like, I'm advocating for a way to completely expedite the process. And it wouldn't just be, okay, so let's go through these point by point, right? So, it doesn't matter how easy it is. It's not supposed to be easy. It's actually really hard to do. Diverting funds through the government or increasing taxes is all I'm saying. Okay, but fair. You're right. You're completely right, Beezus. But let's look at this. You're asking to send out a group to monitor it with each report. I don't think it requires a complex world-building explanation in the story. No, but 13, it's like, this is where I'm coming from. It's like, I want a derivative of this. And then I want to send it all to hell. Right? So, and that's why I need other people's perspectives. Because I need other people to be, like, there needs to be conflict. Right? It's a utopia, but the whole point of the book is that utopias can't exist. They will crumble under their own weight, no matter how magnificent the utopia is. That's basically the premise of the book. And that's because the mind can't deal with stagnation. The entire idea is stagnation is the death of existence. And there must always be continuous change in order to prompt existence to want itself, essentially. So, anyways, you're asking to send out a group to monitor it with each report. No. Beezus, what I'm saying is, as the person who has the information, I can go to my company that I'm an employee of, and I can make a request saying, hey, I think these people are cheating the welfare system. Here's the receipt. It has the timestamps on it. Look at the cameras. Look at the receipt. company does that. That's an HR thing. Companies already do this with theft. Honestly, you could legitimately make a huge moral dilemma in your story. So many people are getting provided for, and it looks like heaven until one day you see the people that are not worth their weight to provide for, they get kicked out of the tree and then make hell society for a different place. Then eventually they rise up because they want the same benefits. Oh, Beezus, you have no idea. Okay. Have you ever been here? It's like your parents abused the system, so you're kicked off, and people who didn't deserve to be kicked off are suffering for their parents' sins. See, you're heading in the right direction, Beezus, but you're going in the right... Okay, you're going down the right road, but you're going in the wrong direction. Does that make sense? The bottom 15% of society, the troublemakers, there are, I don't know, what's 3 times 3, wait, is it 3 times 3 or is it 3 times 2? How does the math on this work? So you have sex, drugs, and violence. How many combinations can you make with this? Because you can have... Wait, okay, let's see. So we have all 3. Let's write this down. Let's see how many combinations, because this is extremely important. 6. 3 times 3. So we have sex, violence, drugs. Then we have sex and violence. Then we have sex and drugs. Then we have sex. Then we have violence and drugs. Violence. And then we have drugs. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we have 7. So this is the all-in. An area where you can do all of this, no problem. Full PvP server. No drugs, but everything else goes full PvP server. It's because each one needs to be a set of itself, right? I was confused about that too. I was like, that doesn't make sense. I'm missing something here. No violence, not a PvP server. All sex and drugs allowed. Full orgy room. Segregated by... What's the word I'm looking for here? Fetish. This is the Final Fantasy story, right? Yes. Yes. So, like, you'd have a room for specifically bondage, masochism, and then you'd have, like, all the combinations of them. You know, you'd have ones that are specifically for, like, romance and just fucking. Ones for that are, like, single couples, multiple males, multiple females. Every possible thing across. So you literally have, and remember, guys, if we look at the tree, right? If we look at the tree, this is the tree trunk. How do I fill? How do I fill? Is this it? There. Okay. So you see the blue? The blue is where the tree hasn't been hollowed out yet. And the black and the white is where people live. Do they actively choose not to go onto the top of the tree, or were they kicked out? Everything above this point where the canopy is... Whoops. That's not what I want. White. No, how do I change it back? Okay, just undo. Okay, this. Canopy of the tree, right? Right here is the palace. So this is where the monarchy is. And, like, the government structure. So all the government operates inside of the palace up here. Everything else that's inside of the tree is inside, like, that amount of space. Like, there's so much more of the tree to expand. They never mind that far. No, they have. Because the monarch is at the top of the tree. Because he started there. Remember, he started there when this was a seedling. So the palace has always been on top of the tree. It's technically not even most of it's outside of the tree. It's not even inside of the tree. At least it used to be. But now the tree is so large that it's all inside of the tree. But, okay. So, in this circumstance, no matter what you did, the population would not be able to fill up the tree. So that kind of gives you the perspective of these different rooms, right? So each of these areas are literally considered their own servers, that if you go to these areas, they are like completely different countries inside of the tree with completely different laws. And like, you are only admitted entry into them if, you know, you've basically passed a test. So the palace is a tree house that was in place before the tree even grew. Exactly, Sean. Exactly. Because how it happened is, there's the domed city. Just a suggestion. Oh, but Beezus, what I'm saying is, your suggestion leads to the same area. So what I think is really cool is that you are thinking like, you're literally thinking in the same line that I am, but I'm trying to solve the problem of it as it goes. So I'm like, shit, there's a giant uprising with everything. How do we solve it? Well, we segregate everyone into these PvP servers that make it so that, you know, sex, drugs, and violence are no longer an issue inside of the tree. And you're just like, sweet, we don't have to worry about them anymore. And, like, slowly over time, they've just been saying, like, because people can't die, so there's, like, in real life, the reason you can't have a fucking Coliseum is because people die. The only rule in the Coliseum is you can't kill people. You can't cut someone's head off. But you can pretty much do anything else, because you can't die. There's no real consequences. So it's all about the thrill and the love, and you don't have to compete in it, but if you go in there as a spectator, you are basically forfeiting your ability. But it's not like you can go in there and die. You're gonna go in there and maybe you get your leg chopped off and you gotta put it back on. Maybe you lose your leg. Like, you can lose body parts. You know? Maybe there's a cult out there that eats body parts and severs body parts so people can't get their body parts back. Like, there's so many different things. Colosseums weren't actually all that dangerous outside of the executions. Oh yeah, Levi, because the last thing they wanted was their slaves to be dead, because a dead slave doesn't bring you in any money. But you should host a contest for viewers writing small stories that fit in your universe. It doesn't have to be put in the actual book, of course, besides maybe a reference. It would flesh out your world and give you a bit more viewer interaction, too. That's a great idea, Beezus. But that's what I like these discussions about, because it's like, I can take these discussions and add them into how I view the book. And I only have a singular retarded view on things, so having other people's views, I think, will give a larger dynamic to how well the book can go. But guys, I think this has probably been one of the most successful commentaries we've had, because we have had, like, a complete back and forth on, like, 5 different fucking topics, and they all lead back to the point of, is it better to throw pizza parties than to solve the problems that you have with your employees? And if all of this can come out of that, that's true interaction and discussion about things, right? That's what I think, personally. Yes, Beezus, that is how this all started. That's how I extrapolate from things. And I start from the most minute, smallest, and I say, okay, where do we go from here? Okay, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? And that's how I understand how people can lose the plot over time, because my mind is thinking about like 100 different things down the line that I'm keeping track of. As I often said, tangents and bold. True, Sean. But yeah, that's how it started with pizza parties and should companies do more for their employees, and how would they do that? And then it wound up into this. So I love that topics can expand and become these massive discussions, and there doesn't have to be any one person's right or one person's wrong. I think the biggest problem in politics is the idea that one person is right and one person is wrong. I don't think anyone's right, and I don't think anyone's wrong. I think we're all right, and we're all wrong. So, I don't think at the end of the day it really matters. I think what matters the most is intent. And if you can boil society down to intent, and if it was possible in some way with a god looming overhead, where if he detected you had bad intentions, he flicked you in the back of the head and said, "That's one warning, bro! You get 50 million warnings, that's one. Hey, that's two. That's three, bro. That's four. Dude, you're getting closer to 50 million. If you keep, dude, that's 644. Like, what are you, you're getting, oh, he died. Fuck, he died at 800, he never even made it to the 20 billion. Fuck. Like, that's how I think of, like, a benevolent god. Is sitting there flicking people in the back of the head saying, hey, your count's getting higher. But the count is so high, no one would ever actually be able to reach it. I think everyone's wrong besides me, and I refuse ever to admit I'm not right. That's fair, Beezus, and I can admit that you didn't change my mind on it, but I reckon I'm definitely right. Well, there you go. Everyone's right and everyone's wrong. As long as everyone can admit that, I think everyone can go forward easily. But if you can't admit there's at least, like when I say you're right and you're wrong, it just means it's a spectrum. Right? You could be 10% wrong, 90% right. You could be 90% wrong, 10% right. The percentage doesn't matter. I think it's important for people to accept that alongside what they think is right, there are wrongs in and among it. And you may call them devil's advocates, you may call them necessary evils, but at the end of the day, my goal is to just eliminate all of that. And if you stand in the way of that, then I'm just going to say, well, you're the one who's in bad faith and you're just corrupt. Or you don't have enough faith in people. And that's completely fair. Like, nothing says that you have to have faith in people. I don't have faith in people. I advocate for having faith in people because I want to believe that you should have faith in people. But all the experience in my entire life tells me I shouldn't have faith in people, including my own personal experience saying I shouldn't have faith in myself because I know how fucked up I am. That literally the only reason I started writing was because I started streaming. If there's no exterior thing holding me accountable, I will not do anything. I will lay in bed and I will mush brain myself into my own fantasies. Should I go kill zombie, mushrooms, or stone masks? Stone masks. But yeah, that's where I'm like the infinite understanding of coming to the agree to disagree, but I can admit that in and among my own philosophy, there may be things that need to be fixed, and it's not a complete whole. Like, that's kind of what, like, that's basically the only thing that I ask out of people, is that can you admit that there's a possibility that there is a hole in what you're saying? And I think if you can't admit to the possibility that there is, then I think you're lost in the sauce. Because no one's perfect, and no one should be expected to be perfect. So of course there's going to be holes, and there's going to be problems, and there's going to be devil advocates, and there's going to be lesser evils. At the end of the day, they're necessary cogs in order for the system to work. So I don't think necessarily the idea of fighting against that, as opposed to just introducing the idea of where is a step where we can fix it, where we can meet in the middle ground. How can I lose 5 points and you lose 5 points so that our overall gap closes? And at the end of the day, as I said, as a centrist, all I want is for everyone to just be able to sit down at the negotiating table and say, okay, I'll give up 50% if you give up 50%. And they're like, okay, you're giving up 50%? Dude, I'll give up 50%. And everyone can meet in the middle. Like, I think that's basically the only solution. Everyone has to give ground. But I don't think that will ever happen. And, like, the fact that I'm writing this into my book as the foundation of the government that falls and is, like, the main bad enemy of everything, and it goes to show that the smaller, like, non-full national kind of idea, if you ask someone about every belief they hold, they'd say each one is true. If you ask them if they think they probably believe something that's actually false, they'd say yes. Well, it's the idea of why would you believe something that you knew was false? But the answer to that question is ego. And optics. People will hold something false because they don't want to admit that they were wrong. So, people would rather die drowning than ask for help. Or let people know that they can't swim. Does that make sense? I think that's like, at the essence of it, that's boiling it down to like how people view optics. One of them's probably false, given their sheer number. But for one of them, for each one, I believe that it's true. Yes. But okay, so Levi, I guess a better way to say it is, everything that you believe, why would you, okay, so number one, why would you believe something that you think is false? So let's go by the premise of you believe that everything that you believe is true. And that's why you believe it, because you believe that it's true. So, then the question becomes, okay, do you believe that there's the possibility that someone could change your mind about it? Someone could present information to you that might make you change your mind about it. So do you believe that there is information that exists in the world that would change your mind? Maybe that's the best way to say it. And if someone says, no, there's no information that could exist in the world that would change my mind, I would say, okay, I think you're naive and I don't think you're thinking this deeply enough. Because, I mean, I can give you the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think you're the smartest person and most intelligent person and the person who's come up with the perfect plan. Sorry to say, just like me, I haven't. Of course I fucking haven't. And even if I had, someone else already has and wasn't able to implement it. No true information can exist that would disprove a true belief. I used to change my mind pretty often, but I've done it quite a bit less often recently as I've grown older and gained knowledge. Okay, so, Levi. If, like, some sort of rift in the fabric of time opened up and, like, a robot entity came through and said, oh, by the way, you're living in a simulation, and then left. Would that not be information that would challenge your beliefs? What exactly is a true belief? A true belief, Neva, would be something that no matter what information you had, it would not change your belief. God could come down from the sky and tell you that you're wrong, and you would say this is a psyop by the government, I'm right. A true belief is a thing that you believe is actually true. Okay, well then I'm wrong. So, then I ask the question, Levi, do you think that we live in a simulation? And notice I've staved taking a toke for this, guys. I want to keep my mind fucking crisp for this discussion. More so, do you believe it's a possibility? Neva, that's where the hypothetical comes in. I'm like 98% on the no simulation position. Okay, so Neva, this would be the thought process of the experiment. A person, not you, Levi, but a person would say, there is no information that exists in the world that would make me change my mind on this stance. This stance is, we do not live in a simulation. So then I say, in hypothetical, a rift opens up, an entity comes through, and tells you that you're living in a simulation. Hell, it brings you outside of the simulation into your real body, like the Matrix, and then puts you back into your body. What I'm saying is if that happened to someone, and they didn't change their beliefs at all, I would think that someone wasn't thinking thoroughly enough about their position in order to have an opinion about it. Does that make sense? Because it's like, you're being presented with the only evidence that will exist that will show you that that's true, and you still... And it's not even that, like, okay, I just don't have the brain power enough to comprehend the entirety, everything has existed, so I'm open to everything. And that's all I'm saying, Beezus, is someone who simply refuses the possibility of it. And says, no, 100%, there is nothing in existence that will ever change my mind about this. If someone says that, I will never take their opinion about something seriously, because I don't think the opinion that they had is thought through and come to it in their own volition. I think the opinion that they have with that is something that has been imprinted on them, and it's not something that they have, it's something that's been made for them. I think it's easy to write off the experience as a hallucination and to accept as proof of simulation. See, Levi, that's the thing, is you could I'm gonna say, if that happened to me, I wouldn't believe it. I would say, it's a psyop by the government. It's some sort of fucked up thing. It was a hallucination. I was having a seizure. But I would concede that there is a possibility that I'm wrong. But I don't believe that I am. But I will concede, and I call this my 99% rule. Nothing is 100%. You can only go to warp 9.9999999. You cannot hit warp 10. You can never hit, if you think something is 100% and there is no fault or error possibility at all, I believe that you are naive. There is no such thing as 100%. Any proof of simulation theory to me would require sufficient argument against my beliefs that would contradict it. Even if I got pulled out of this reality into another reality, my proof of not being in a simulation is that I can feel each hair on my arm moving in different directions. That's how I know I'm dreaming or not. Damn, Sean, that's powerful. You know how I know if I'm dreaming or not? I fucking don't. Oh, shit. Especially how high I am all the time. Guys, I think this is the longest I've gone without smoking if I'm not at work. or sleeping. But I probably never even sleep for like 3 hours straight. But I'm gonna say, I don't know about you guys, but I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and this, like, exchange of ideas. And it has shown me a lot of outside perspectives that I haven't looked at before, and given me a lot to think on about it, right? Everything you get close to on camera, I get an uncanny feeling that makes me feel like I'm seeing a creature from my dreams. It's the Meeseeks! Wait, is that the right direction? I can't tell. I think it was. Yeah, you gotta get the teeth and the smile in there. You can, like, see it above. He's like, yeah, he's just staring at you. He's just staring into your soul. Oh, I love it. Oh, okay. Talks, you're a creature from my dreams, but in a good way. Okay, I can deal with that. I like being dreamy. Oh my god. Well, that was a discussion, guys. That went on way too long. We're not even gonna get to write today. Cause, well, let's see.